We've managed long-term rentals over the last 10 years. So when we started talking about buying beach property and renting it out on Airbnb, we honestly thought we knew what we were getting into. We weren't new to real estate. We weren't new to tenants. We weren't new to maintenance systems or dealing with people. In our heads, we felt like this would be pretty easy. Same fundamentals, shorter stays. What we didn't realize at the time is that Airbnb isn't just a different version of long-term rentals. It's a different experience altogether. And a lot of those assumptions that we carried into this were completely wrong.
From my side, I felt pretty confident too. Day-to-day operations is my job. I'm the guy on site. Maintenance, changeovers, all the stuff we'd done for years. I assumed short-term rentals would actually be lighter. Fewer long relationships, faster resets, less emotional weight tied up into one tenant. And while some things were easier, a lot of things were harder in ways I didn't anticipate at all. Not bigger problems, just more of them happening faster with less margin for error. That definitely took some adjusting.
And the reason we wanted to sit down and talk through this now isn't because we think Airbnb is bad or broken or not worth doing. It's because when people talk about buying a beach house and renting it out, the most of the conversation stays very surface level. Numbers, occupancy, ROI, platforms. What they don't talk about nearly enough is what it actually feels like once you're in it. How the work shows up, how it affects your time, how it affects your headspace over the course of a year, which he would know better than anybody. That's the part that we didn't understand going in. Even with all of our experience, we could have never been prepared for it.
If you're thinking about doing this, whether it's your first rental or it's a second home or a beach place you just want to use for part of the year, none of what we're going to talk about is meant to scare you off. It's just meant to give you a clearer picture of the job that you're actually signing up for. Because once you understand that, everything else gets easier to evaluate.
So what we want to do is walk you through the biggest expectation gaps that we ran into, not tips, not hacks, just the parts that surprised us the most once we were actually living this day to day. If you've ever thought, how different could it really be? This conversation is for you. I honestly thought the hardest part would be the competition and the money. Breaking through online, getting bookings, competing with listings that already had hundreds of reviews. I assumed that was where the real challenge was going to be. And weirdly, that part turned out to be much easier than I expected. The platforms are actually pretty open to new listings if you do the right things, if you price it correctly, if you have good photos, if you've got a solid description, and if you're using the right systems to continuously update your listing, you can get traction way faster than I ever imagined. I thought the old listings would dominate everything forever. If you just had like Superhost and a million 5-star listings, you'd always be number one. But that's just not the way the whole internet even works anymore. You get served the best fit for what you're searching for. And so everything I had originally thought just wasn't true, and it surprised me how we were able to get people to book. It was what happened after the bookings that I think surprised all of us.
I had almost the opposite expectation. I figured day-to-day management would be simpler than dealing with one long-term tenant. With long-term rentals, you've got one person who might complain constantly, ask for upgrades, and push your boundaries, and you're in that relationship for a year or more, in our case, way longer. So I thought short-term rentals would actually be lighter. Guests are only there for a few days. They can leave, you can reset. A new guest, a clean slate. What I didn't realize is that instead of one person asking for a lot, you now have dozens of people asking for small things. And all of those things feel urgent because they're on vacation and they want them immediately and they're going to review you. And the review is everything. Every question matters more. Every issue is time sensitive. If something breaks, it's not, oh, we'll get to it next week. It's right now. It needs to be done for this guest. Because someone's stay is actively being affected. The work doesn't disappear, it's multiplied just in smaller pieces.
The other part about dealing with the long-term tenant is it's also more centralized. You're really talking to one person. It's one thread. It's one relationship that you're kind of caring for. And if you build a good relationship like you've had with our tenants for 8, 9, 10 plus years, it really is like talking to a friend or just someone you have a real relationship with and then you have a language with, and it just makes it a little bit easier. With Airbnb, the work becomes more fragmented. I handle most of our messages, and the messages, you get them constantly, and there's never anything that bad in them, but it's stuff like, how do you get in? Where do you park? Which light switch controls what? Is this normal? Is this supposed to look like that? like I said, none of it's bad, but if the instructions are not painfully clear, I mean step by step, spelled out in a way that almost feels excessive, everything slows down and you get a million messages. I didn't realize how much of this job is just clarity, anticipating questions before they're asked, writing instructions like you're explaining things to someone who's never stayed in any house before, not just in your house. It's not hard work in the way people imagine it. It's like a mental interruption constantly.
That interruption shows up physically. Changeovers are tight. Schedules matter. Cleaners, maintenance, and inspections. Everything has to line up perfectly. Saturday to Saturday, you only got 3 hours. There's no buffer zone. It's something runs late, it affects the next guest immediately.
The maids. How many times have the maids been late?
Exactly. Even your own maids who are built into the structure could be delayed by an hour from a previous issue at another house, which pushes you an hour, which is 20 minutes closer to your check-in time. And on the opposite side, with long-term rentals, if something goes wrong, you usually have time to think. And with short-term rentals, you just don't. The clock is always ticking towards someone arriving, especially during prime season. That urgency can be exhausting and is exhausting in a different way. It's not worse, it's just different. You're not dealing with major problems all the time. You're dealing with lots of small ones that cannot wait, or else it will directly affect their stay.
We went into Airbnb thinking fewer tenants would mean less work. What we learned is that fewer tenants means more interactions. And one of the things that I want to reinforce that is a fear I know for everybody out there considering buying a beach rental or an Airbnb, our guests have been incredible. It surprised me completely. And there's definitely an assumption out there that it's different than that their guests are entitled, difficult, constantly trying to get something for free. And that has just not been our experience at all. Most people are grateful. They're excited to be there. They're on vacation. They're having a good time. It's just what we didn't understand was how dependent they were going to be on us, especially people who've never been here before. They're staying somewhere unfamiliar. And with long-term tenants, they figure things out. It's their home. They adapt. They're going to be there for a while. They live with small inconveniences. With short-term guests, none of that exists. Every little thing becomes a question, and that creates a totally different kind of mental workload. So it's really about managing people, managing expectations, and making sure that all of that stuff is laid out before they arrive.
And once you understand that, things begin to get a lot easier because then you stop reacting and you start designing the experience. You realize this isn't about fixing people, it's about building systems that reduce confusion.
How many things have you and mom added? I mean, even to like the dryer, turn it this far. Like how many of those little signs have you guys put up throughout every property?
My mother's favorite purchase is her label maker. It's yeah. It's become critical.
Hilarious.
And that's the adjustment most people don't realize that they'll need to make. The other thing that caught us completely off guard was seasonality. This is a big one, not just financially, but mentally. When you're in season, everything is happening all at once. Turnovers are constant. Schedules are tight. Every stay matters because there's another one right behind it. You're busy, you're moving, you're reacting. There's almost no time to think. It can be very intense and it's a big change, but in a way that feels purposeful. You're tired, but you know why, and you do have a lot of momentum. And then the season ends and everything stops, and you get a little bit of your life back, and you can start to improve the properties.
And when the bookings stop coming and that property gets vacant for a couple weeks, that part gets pretty hard on you mentally. With long-term rentals, there's consistency. I mean, that rent check is coming hopefully every month. And even if there's an issue, there's a rhythm to the way that things operate and you always know where you stand. But Airbnb, we just went through it. We just had 3 months of nothing, no messages, no bookings, no feedback, no income. It was, oh my gosh, it was disturbing. It was scary. It was pretty scary. You actually start to think that there are no bookings ever coming again. But that stuff really does seriously mess with you.
Well, I'll take it a step further. We just purchased an extremely expensive, great located house, and we bought it in the off season and we fixed it up pretty quickly. And we're like, okay, when are the renters going to come? You're almost buying an Airbnb for year 2.
Yes. That is true.
It's almost like year 2 is like, okay, all the systems are in place. But that first year was no reviews, and maybe it needs to be fixed up. Maybe you bought it in the off season. You better be able to carry that thing.
You guys have never done a turnover this big. The house we bought is 3,300 square feet. We moved our check-in time from 4 p.m. to 5 p.m. on this house but we don't know that that's even enough. You guys have just been doing these turnovers at these smaller places that are 2,000 square feet. We don't know if we're going to get our own individual cleaning crew from this house. We don't know if they're going to be coming from another property.
Or if it's one person or four. I mean, that's a big...
And you guys don't know what issues are going to pop up with sheets. And we've never had 12, 16 people.
We can now guess more accurately, but it's still a guess.
Yeah, it's a guess. It's a guess. There is a little bit of fear going into this main season with this bigger house, but then the hope and expectation is in year 2, you've kind of got it dialed and you can figure it out.
And look, it's not that one is better than the other. It's that Airbnb requires you to be okay with the swings, busy and slow and busy and slow, loud and silent, full weeks and then empty calendars. If you are someone who needs constant motion or constant feedback, that adjustment can be rough. So good luck there.
It's definitely the difference is we make more money in the Airbnbs. That is unquestioned. We make more money, but it's a lot like working a 100% commission job where that money is going to have to stem you the whole year. Like when we were real estate agents, we'd make all of our money from March to June 30th. That money, 80% of your income's coming into those 4 months early in the year. That's got to stem you the whole year. Very similar to Airbnb.
Once you accept that rhythm and once you accept that lifestyle, things become more manageable. You stop treating the off season like a problem to fix and you start treating it like a part of the system. But that acceptance doesn't happen automatically. You have to experience it, which is so true. You really have to go through the lows to experience the craziness of prime season.
I think the biggest thing to this whole experience is that it's forced us to do a slowdown of any assumption we make. Not just Airbnb specifically, but what it's about and what it means to add something new to your life that looks simple on paper and not misunderstand it just because the math works out. And that in any new venture you're getting into, it's about making those adjustments to try to make things easier on you. We were trying to evaluate Airbnb through the long-term rental lens, and that was wrong. And we realize that now. But once we stopped comparing them and once we started dealing with the issues that we were facing, things became easier to live with.
It's not about whether or not Airbnb works. We didn't know if it worked or it didn't, but it does. It's not about whether people should buy beach houses and rent them out. Plenty of people do that successfully. The real question is whether the day-to-day reality of it fits your life, your tolerance of interruptions, and your ability to deal with the swings.